Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well today. I'm Taffany and I want to welcome you into my garden. This is Tika's Gardens and I am out kind of in between rains. There's a little bit of a few drops hitting me, big fat drops, but nothing big. It's in between the rains, and I think I'm going to get out here and work in the bedroom garden to address the drainage issue that I started in the last video. So I'm gonna get that finished up by adding gravel to the area, and I'm also going to freshen up the gravel area that is around the window in that bedroom garden. So we're gonna basically lay gravel, some heavy duty work, and then I'm also going to plant a couple of evergreens, parsons junipers, one of my favorites. I have 2 back there already, so we're gonna add a couple more, and then we're gonna kind of take a look at my hanging baskets because I think it's a fail on those. So yeah guys, that is the plan for today as I take my stroll here. So let's get this done before the rains start to come back. All right guys, let me take you back to the back there and explain to you a little bit more about what I'm going to be doing. Okay guys, so I am outside in between rains. I ran to the store this morning, did a couple of errands. It started raining on me while I was out. I picked up the gravel, or river pebbles is technically what I have on the walkway, and so I got the same thing to match, and that is going to go on the landscape fabric, which, if you remember from the previous video, we are addressing the drainage issue over here. This is like my last trouble spot in this whole back section. So I dug the mulch up and dug down to lower the level a little bit so that it is not above the rocks, and now I am going to cover this landscape fabric with the gravel. That is so that I can prevent this drain from constantly getting covered up, because when it gets covered up, water builds up back here and it builds up fast. So the fabric is to keep the soil and everything from moving and sliding, and the gravel will kind of, you know, act as an assistant in the drain of the water and everything. So let's get that gravel down before the next set of rains come because it is lightly thundering and it is showing all kinds of signs that it's going to rain again. So let's try to get this done as quickly as possible. Okay guys, so far the weather has been holding up, so I was able to put the gravel, fresh gravel around here, which I have mentioned before that I wanted to do. So I pulled the weeds off camera and then did a spray of the weeds with a dead weed brew. I try to stay as natural as I can. When I have to use spray, I try to use a natural brand, but I've got the gravel here to freshen that up, which looks good. And I've got the gravel back there. All right, that's from another angle. And I left a little spot right here for the sprinkler head to come up. I will test that. There's some places where I feel like I could put a little bit more gravel, and I will probably do that. But for the most part, this should take care of the issue of mulch and dirt falling into that drain and clogging it. So that is that, and I love it. I love it, love it, love it. Let's step back. And you know, of course, once the shrubs are thick and full and everything, it should kind of partially, it won't fully, but it should partially kind of cover this little mini swale, so to speak, right there. So yeah guys, I believe we have addressed the issue of the drain. There is more rain coming today, so we'll see how it works out. But that's that. Alright guys, so the next thing to get done is to get the parsons junipers planted. So I have one that's going in front of that hibiscus and one going in front of this hibiscus. You will notice that this liriope grass here, I have pulled all of it up. I did not get rid of it. I have it kind of sitting in a pile in the back courtyard garden for right now. I'm going to get to it for something else, but I'm now that the lilies are done, as I said, wanted to kind of finish getting this garden more in the direction that I want it to go. I really wanted to enjoy one more season with the lilies, so I did that. Most of them back here were already done. I have more that's pretty much done, as you can see here. This is going to be the last bloom on this one. You can see there are no more buds. We got multiple blooms on this one and just a small number of buds on there. Same with the rest as you go along. So as I mentioned before, they are kind of done for the season. So I pulled those up because I really want this to kind of have a formal look to it, but not completely formal, like British formal. It's a warm climate here, and while I could go with trying to do a lot of greens and things like that, I still want to add a little bit of flair of my personality in here. And I don't know, I guess you could call this bedroom garden style like a what would you call it? I guess like a formal tropical, so to speak. We've got the hibiscus in here. You know, we've got fruit trees. So, you know, I guess that's a good word for it. But nonetheless, I'm going to make it mine. It's my version of formal. And I want along this fence as much evergreen as possible while still adding color. And so I have my miniature roses, which are red. If you recall, they are kind of stressed from the sprinkler going right on them. So in front of this column ligustrum, I have the Asiatic lily, the miniature red rose we're trying to restore, and I'll probably put another little third something back there. Then as you come over, the parsons juniper will sit directly in front of the hibiscus, so when the hibiscus dies back, when the frost comes, we'll still have the evergreen from the column ligustrums and from the hibiscus. I'm sorry, from the parsons juniper. Right here in front of this drain, which I'm going to pull the weeds from around it, and just the rock kind of fell in it. I'm going to get this kind of cleaned up. I'm going to put something here, hopefully something that is like a miniature shrub, or something maybe that blooms, I don't know, but something will go there, so it'll block the view of the drain. It'll kind of, the roots can kind of help take up water as, you know, water is running towards the drain, and it'll, you know, like I said, block the view and add to the look. And keep in mind now, these parsons junipers, they're small now, but they get 2 to 3 feet tall and wide. But the one I have in the front that's older than these has stretched pretty far out. I'll show you that one after we finish looking here. So I expect for it to take up more space than what it says. Now here we get to the other parsons, the other column ligustrum, and we again have an Asiatic lily, red rose, and we'll put another third something there, so we've got little pops of red there. We've got the parsons juniper, which should stretch and take up, you know, a good amount of that space, and then the last column ligustrum with another Asiatic lily, rose, and we'll put something there. Now this I'm going to have to watch because these are closer to the sprinkler, and that is a rotary sprinkler that has a high pressure, so I'll have to keep an eye on the rose. But that is my plan. Basically evergreens along the front with pops of color from miniature roses, the Asiatic lilies, and whatever else I choose. And if you remember, I divided the lilies. It was a big pot of lilies that I divided, so I have one there with a rose. I can add a third flower there to kind of repeat the trio. And here as well, lily, miniature rose, and room for something else, at least for right now, until this spreads. When that spreads, it will pretty much touch the rose and spread kind of into where this lily is as well. So the last things I'm going to pull up are these other two liriope grasses and just add a few more of the red vinca around the front there. So this front border in essence is going to be evergreens, miniature roses, and any other things that I kind of pop in the little section for trios in there for color. So that's what I'm going for. A beautiful, thick, lush wall of green with red sticking out here and there. It's going to be lovely. So let me get these junipers planted and see what else we can get done for the day, or call it a day. We'll see how it goes. Alright guys, I have the Parsons junipers in, and I like the way it looks. Pairing it with the hibiscus. I had a hard time figuring out which direction should I plant this, which way looks best, forward and backward. And I settled on this one. Hopefully I chose right. But yeah, so picture it, if we can revive these sad little miniature roses. If not, I'll have to replace them. But just picture it with those two there. Like I said, some type of mounded evergreen right here in front of the drain. It'll block the view, help absorb water, fill in that space. When I planted this area back in the winter, for those who are following me, you can see that it is not fully equal between those column ligustrums and this one, and that is because of the drain. There's no way for me to do this equally spaced because of that. So I have to do my best to give it the illusion of being balanced. So we will get something to block that drain, and we will have the collection of flowers in front of each column ligustrum here, adding that pop of color. And like I said, these Parsons junipers will spread, so it should spread to the point of where it's touching the roses and stuff there. This miniature rose, that is, it should reach to there, to about here. So it should end up touching whatever little mini evergreen shrub I put there. Alright, so let me kind of go to another angle. Here we go, coming into the entrance this way. That's going to look good with evergreens and the little miniature roses and things like that. So I got to get those two grasses out of there. I want to fill that in with more red vinca, because I don't want any of the grasses along this edge here. I want it to be just all evergreens, roses, and the little lilies, whatever I can find, but I don't want the grasses there, so I have to get those up next. And last but not least, let's take a look at an update on my hanging baskets. If you remember, I dug up the trailing lantana from my back garden and put them in here, and I thought by this point they would have done more than what they're doing. And yes, I have been putting fertilizer in the water as I add water to the wells, and it's not doing so great. So I have some trailing vinca that I will be putting in those. I guess I can do that, or something else. But yeah, I don't like the way they're doing. I feel like they should be much further, well, a little bit more further along than this. Looks like they are the way they were when we dug them out of the ground. So we'll do something with those pots. We'll figure it out. But that's the update on those. I keep the water chamber full, but I do not water it from the top, same as I do with these self-watering pots. So we'll figure out something. I'm thinking that I'm going to use some trailing vinca for those. I already have some, so I think that will work. But let's look. Alright, so let's look from a distance. Starting to fill in with green color there. Alright, yes, I love it. Alright guys, well, that is it for today. The rains are starting to come back down, so I'm gonna call it. And I will be back out to work again, doing my favorite thing with my favorite little kitty cat, Tika, and that is working in our garden and just enjoying nature. So I will see you guys in the next video. Bye! you.